What's up, everyone? Circon here, and it's Advent Calendar. Well, day one, but also kind of day two. Yesterday there was an Advent for like a mission or something. Didn't really matter. Today is really the start of the Advent Calendar, so I'm probably just gonna call it day two, just to avoid confusion a little bit. Yeah. So day two, and the first thing is the TS5. Now I have done these reviews before, but I'll just tackle it as if it's completely new. I think I've done the last like 4 or 5 years of this. But yeah, so let's take a look at the TS5. Okay. Now pricing wise, I'm not sure if this was the case last year, but you can actually purchase it with gold now. So if you have a lot of gold from Clan Wars or something, you can actually spend it to get the sort of the bundle. You get a bunch of these missions, but it's pretty bare bones otherwise. Which is, as an option, is rather nice. Buying it with real currency, there's always the big bundle. Let's take a look here. So one is the standard, where you have the bonus of the missions. I'm pretty sure the gold purchase one is also bonus missions, I think. So almost 33 euros for me. Might be different for you if you're in a different country with a different coin, let's say. There's also the big bundle, which I never really recommend. It's almost never worth it. You get a bunch of credits and stuff that you just don't need. If you're ever buying credits with real money in some way, shape, or form, it's just bad. So it's not worth it. Buy the small bundle if you do want it. Now, the TS5 is, of course, an American Tier 8 premium TD, and it's the only premium TD they have at Tier 8. And as much as I don't like slower tanks, this thing is a pain in the ass, fighting against it, and I'll show you why. So it doesn't have a turret, already in the small icon here, but the armor layout is super annoying to fight against. It does have a somewhat weak spot, which is the cupola, right? It is weak. It's but if you're actually playing the game, you'll find that it's not always the easiest thing to hit. It has fairly limited traverse, as you can see, to the left and right, but it's still decent enough to peek a corner without showing the cupola if you're coming in from the correct angle. And otherwise, the lower plate is like very steep, as you can see. There's multiple layers to it, which makes it extremely troll. You will bounce some crazy things here. So even though the effective armor is like 228, you're going to need a lot more pen than that to be able to really punch through it, just because of the angles and stuff. So against other tier 8s, especially the medium tanks that have 90 mils, or any tank that has a smaller gun than a 90 mil, will have severe issues betting you here. And of course, it still has some gun depression going for it. See how much it was. Yeah, it's only 5, which is kind of annoying. And then, of course, the side armors are weak. The back is also kind of weak. And then the rear is really weak. It's only 50, so you can easily get HE pent in the back. It also has these kind of like spaced armor side skirts things going on. But trust me when I say that these things are a pain to fight. Because a lot of the times you're going to be like, oh, I'll just shoot the lower plate. And you'll get trolled quite a lot. Not to mention that it will shoot back at a rapid fire of 3000 base DPM without any equipment or crew. It has already a 3k DPM. Which, it's 400 damage. So it's not like you're going to be trading blows with the bigger guns, shot for shot. But you will out-reload just about anything. Having the knowledge of when you can shoot twice against someone is always nice, or sometimes even 3 times is very nice. And like, what are the downsides? Kind of the few range. The top speed, obviously 26, only 12 reverse. 5 degrees gun depression can be sometimes hard to work with, of course, as well. The dispersion is quite large, but the aim time is quick, which is kind of like an American thing. I found that the gun itself isn't super troll, despite this dispersion, and I think that's maybe down to the aim time. You also have a base pen of 248, which is 8p. The heat goes up to 300, and then a 60 pen only on the HE, so the HE is not very good. But in a pinch against like a Rheinmetall or something, it could be very nasty, considering your reload is super quick. So all in all, and the commander is also the radio guy, which is annoying for crew training because that means that the commander needs, let's see, Birds and Arms is 1, Sixth Sense is 2, then it has 2 Fury Range skills is 4, then it needs repairs is 5, and maybe even camouflage is 6. So you do want to have a really good commander for this tank. Otherwise, you're gonna be pretty limited because it only has 370 base Fury Range. So how would I run this tank? There's actually kind of an interesting thing that I've been doing lately, and that is foregoing on tanks like this that have armor and are fairly slow. It's actually not putting too much work into the Fury Range of things. And I know that's an awkward thing because it used to be always the case. You run optics, you run a gun rammer, and if you can run Verceps, you run Verceps. If not, you run ventilation. But equipment 2.0 is here, and there is something to be said, I think, for things like turbochargers. Turbochargers is new equipment that increases your engine power by 7.5%, and it gives you a flat increase of 4 kilometers forwards and 2 kilometers backwards. Now, the engine power is percentage based, so the more engine power you have, the bigger advantage you get. But the forward and reverse are stuck at 4 and 2 kilometers, and that's just a flat increase, which is really nice for a tank like this, because all of a sudden you go from 26 to 30. And even more important, and this is something that's often overlooked, is that the reverse speed gets better from 12 to 14, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is. And the power to weight means that you actually shift into reverse gear, in a way, a lot quicker. And for tanks with no turrets, where you're reliant on, the whole peekaboo thing, like you peek out, you shoot, you go back, having that extra mobility will actually save you getting shot, and or just make it harder for people to shoot you back. It also helps with the fact that you don't have a turret, once again, because this allows you to rotate quicker because your power to weight is better. So people trying to get around you is now also hard to do. And if you can keep your front pointed towards your enemies, this thing is pretty nasty depending on the matchup. So we do still use a gun rammer. Vents you could also still use. If you go with this setup, which is like the food, this doesn't matter, these two, right? You don't go optics and you go food whilst having 2 Fury Range skills and Burns and Arms, you will go to 431 Fury Range. Now, if you really want the Fury Range, you can just slap on like the bounty optics and you're at a healthy 470, right? This kind of allows you to do a whole bunch of everything. Doing this will still give you 3600 DPM and is probably the way to go. However, I think sometimes these kinds of tanks are not really meant to, do the self-spotting all the time. Most of the time you're going to be brawling, you're going to be fighting up close. With this tank, you want to be close, you don't want to be sniping because you only have that 400 damage, which is decent, but you're not going to chunk away health, right? So if you're brawling, most of the time, you might as well gear up for the brawling, which it's really good at. And not so much the sniping / spotting, which it's inherently not so good at. So I think there's something to be said to just run less Fury Range, run ventilation, run a gun rammer, and run the speed. You can also look into things like the traverse and the dispersion during movement of the vehicle and stuff. But honestly, I'm a big fan of the turbocharger. The more I play with it, and I've now been marking things like the T95 and I don't know, the Type 4 or something we did, like the turbo actually makes a difference. And I kind of recommend it because movement is the name of the game. And yeah, bringing this tank up to speed quicker is just nice. Yeah, all those little increments help a lot. Now, would I recommend you buy this tank? Only if you know how to play and don't get frustrated with playing slow tanks. Okay? I, at least used to be, a significant hater of slow tanks, okay? Now that I've played, but granted it was mostly some tier 8s and a lot of 9s, the slower tanks at tier 9 actually have been treating me fairly well. Things like the Maushan, the T95 have actually been surprisingly good. Now, but I do think a lot of people are not interested in a slow tank. And if you're not, and you're like on the fence, like, oh man, it looks kind of good, but I don't really like slow tanks, just don't buy it. Okay, at that point, not worth it. But if you're like, yeah, you know what? I like slow tanks. Yeah, And this tank is you can do a lot worse. This tank is pretty good, if not really good, especially if it doesn't see a lot of tier 10s, which at most you're gonna see tier 50 of them usually. I actually think it's pretty nasty. It's pretty map dependent because of the way the tank works. 5 degrees gun depression and it's slow. So keeping all those things in mind, you know, you can decide if you want to get it or not. It is not a bad tank. It's just, yeah, a bit slow. But I'd say it's really good. So let me know if you're going to get it or not. Let me know what you think about the TS5 in the comment section below. People probably want to read other people's experiences as well. So leave your experience if you had it. I think this was a marathon tank, was it not? So probably a bunch of people that have it. Yeah, there you go. I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 3. Thanks a lot for hanging out. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.